Heart rate monitors. Do you need one for running? What sort of information can you get out of it? Let's have a talk about it. Hi, welcome back. Yeah, I thought I might start doing a few sort of training type videos. First off, to say the reason I've not done many of them so far is really I don't really feel qualified. These are just my opinions, and I'm not a fantastic runner by any means. But then thinking about it, I thought perhaps your average runner needs perhaps someone to talk to them. So, you know, if you're a good runner and you're really trying to up your game, you'd be much better looking at, you know, one of the good runners like Sage Canaday, for instance, does lots of good content. I'll put a link to him in the description. But if you're like me, if you run for fitness, if you run to get out into the countryside, if you run for your physical and mental health, your goals are different. So those are the people I'm targeting really with these videos. So for those of you who already know an awful lot about, you know, training techniques, these videos probably won't give you too much. I'm not going to try and teach Granny how to suck eggs. Having said that, let's dive into it and talk a bit about heart rate monitors, because we're all wearing them these days, and whether they actually give you any useful information. Where should we start? I guess we should start with your resting heart rate. So your resting heart rate, it varies. We're all different. My resting heart rate is about 50 beats a minute. If you run and train regularly, your heart rate does fall because your heart gets a little bit larger and the stroke of the heart gets stronger. So you pump more blood with each stroke, so it doesn't have to beat as much. And yeah, that's good because you've got a certain range of heart rate. You've got your rest heart rate at one end, and at the other end you've got your maximum heart rate. So if your rest heart rate goes down a bit, you've got more revs, more range. Okay, right, so what can you get from the resting heart rate? Well, I keep an eye on the resting heart rate for several things. The first is overtraining. If you're doing too much, pushing too hard, then you'll notice that your rest heart rate creeps up. And I keep an eye on that, and so that go, hang on, that's if I've got a protracted period where it's a bit high, it's time for a rest day, or it's time for a walk day, a recovery day. The other thing I get out of it is it rises if you're dehydrated because your blood's thicker. And so in the summer when it's getting hot, you see it can rise, so you know to drink more. You also see that during a run you get cardiac drift where it goes up as you go along, and that's because you are getting dehydrated, which is pushing your heart rate up. The other thing it tells you is it gives you an early warning of getting ill. If only I listened to my own advice. I know this. And so currently, one of the reasons I'm sitting here doing a training video today is that I'm currently recovering from COVID. That was really nasty. But yeah. You know, this business of living with COVID? Ignore that. Keep wearing a mask. You don't want it. It's horrible. So, yeah, my Apple Watch pinged about 3 or 4 days before I got COVID symptoms, alerting me to the fact that I had an elevated rest pulse. And actually, I'd had a really tough week, actually, emotionally, and I put it down to that. Wrong. It was down to the heart rate was raised because my body was trying to, well, it was heating itself up to increasing my core temperature to fight off the COVID, I'm guessing. So yeah, do pay attention to your rest heart rate. It's useful. Let's go to the other end of the spectrum, your max heart rate. Now, this is something. Have I ever hit my maximum heart rate? Probably not. No, probably not. I can extrapolate out to work out what it is, and it is useful to know what it is, because when you train, and if you're going to use a heart rate monitor, you're going to work on the different zones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And to calculate those zones, they're a percentage of your maximum heart rate. So how do you work out what your maximum heart rate is? Well, you could say it's, 220 minus your age, but that's not really very accurate. The best way to work out what your maximum heart rate is, and also it gives you another useful figure, your anaerobic threshold, we'll get to that, is to do a conconi test. So basically, find yourself somewhere, a circular loop of a fixed distance, 400 meters would be good. Start with just walking for perhaps 10 minutes or so, just to warm up, and then do laps and note the lap time for each lap. Getting faster each time, but very, very gradually. You want lots of points. So starting basically at a walk, then a faster walk, very, very, very slow jog, slightly faster, slightly faster, slightly faster, and keep going until you're going as fast as you possibly can, and then keep going and then try and go even faster. Try and push to your absolute limit. And people will say, yeah, that's not going to get you your max heart rate. And you're right, it doesn't. You never really get that. The only way you really get it is to be in a lab, all hooked up with all the kit on and the oxygen mask and everything. But for you and me, we're never going to do that. But you can. So by doing this, though, you can extrapolate. So what you then do is you take these figures, and I'll include in the description how to manipulate those figures. So basically, what you want to draw a graph on. Sorry, I might actually put a proper graph up for you, but roughly that's what you're going to get. You're going to heart rate in beats per minute on one axis, and your speed in miles per hour on another axis. And so what you'll get is a straight line when you're moving slowly up to a threshold, at which point it starts to tail off. And then you can sort of extrapolate that line to work out what your maximum heart rate is. So again, the only bit of maths you need for that is you'll have a lap time in seconds for, say it's a 400 meter track. You'll have a lap time in seconds. So how do you work out miles per hour? It's 3,600 divided by your lap time in seconds times by the distance, so 400, divided by 1609, which is a mile. And that will give you your speed in miles per hour for each lap. So you're plotting heart rate versus miles per hour. Okay, so you can extrapolate out from that and get your maximum heart rate. The other useful figure from that is where that point of inflection in the graph. That's your anaerobic threshold. Yeah, let's work through the zones from bottom to top, and we'll come to that. Okay. So right, once you've got your maximum heart rate, you can then work out your zones. So zone 1 is 50 to 60%. And for most people, that's a walking pace. That's just gentle walk. Okay. Then zone 2. Zone 2 is the most important one, in my opinion, which is 60 to 70%. Okay. And that's a jog. You know, that should be the pace that, if you're following the 80-20 rule, which you should, in my opinion, all this is my opinion. I can almost hear the keyboard warriors now. Please don't. I don't want to hear, you know, if you don't agree, fine. 80% of the time you should be running in zone 2. It should be a conversational pace. You should be able to talk, and zone 2 is where that is, typically. At the top end of zone 2 typically is what they call the aerobic threshold. Now, it's a bit trickier to actually calculate that. I use the math approach. So I've talked about math before. Your math pace is basically 180 minus your age, and that gives you a heart rate. So for me in my 50s now, it's whatever, 128 or something like that. That really, that's your aerobic threshold, basically. So you're in the point of the aerobic threshold is you are fat burning predominantly at that point. So you can do it, you can keep that pace going for a long time, and that's what I want. I want to be able to go out and do long efforts with, and I don't take gels. I'm on a keto diet. I don't want sugar. So up to that point, I'm burning fat. Above that, you're burning a mix. And so if I was running above that, it would either be for a shorter effort where I can keep, I've got enough glycogen in my body to keep me going for an hour or more. You know, I certainly a 10K, maybe as much as a half marathon, just. Above that, you see, I would be, you'd be the choice of, am I going to suck sugars while I run? No. Or am I going to run at that aerobic threshold so that I'm just burning fat? Plenty of that knocking around. So that's zone 2 and your aerobic threshold. Next, you've got zone 3. And so zone 3, it's a more of a challenging pace. You're pushing a bit harder. And yes, it is important to go faster than a gentle zone 2 gentle pace, but only 20% of the time. I think one of the mistakes I've made in the past, and I guess a lot of us, if you are a slower runner, whether that's because you're older, you're carrying more weight, or your health, or we're all different, and there'll be other people out there who are faster runners than you, and so you're trying to go faster, and so you're pushing harder into zone 3 and beyond 4 even, and it doesn't help. Doesn't make you faster. Most of your training needs to be at zone 2, so you build this large aerobic base, and it is important to do the higher stuff, but it's the polish, really. It's by training at a faster pace, you can increase your stride length, you can increase your cadence, you can improve your running efficiency. You can actually push up your anaerobic threshold by pushing. So, yeah, zone 3, it's sort of a tempo. So you're pushing a bit harder. So for me, what I tend to do is the end of a run, that last half mile or so, I'll pick up the pace a bit now and again and just push a bit harder. Or maybe it's, working in a hill, to build leg strength, but I am monitoring that I don't go into zone 3 too often, because I am guilty of pushing too hard, which has a detrimental effect, or at least it does for me, because I can't get the volume of training in if I push too hard. Then you've got, so zone 3, 70 to 80% of maximum heart rate. Then zone 4, you're sort of 80 to 90%. And around this sort of area, you've got your anaerobic threshold, which, if you going back to the graph, that anaerobic threshold is the point at which lactate is building up. So the lactate is building up, and when you hit that, it's building up faster than your body's getting rid of it, and so you're going to end up with the burn in your legs, and you just grind to a standstill. So it is useful to know that anaerobic threshold, because you know that when you're racing, if you want to go and run a race, you know that if you stay a little bit under that, you're not going to end up tied in a knot. Gotta be honest, these days, much more comfortable running out into the countryside in zone 2, the top end of zone 2 at my MAF stroke anaerobic threshold pace. That suits me, but it's useful to know. Yeah, so zone 5, 90 to 100%. I've got to be honest, I very rarely do that. So in that 20% of the time when you're pushing harder, one of the things you can do is intervals, really short bursts. So there's that lamppost over there. Sprint as fast as you possibly can to the lamppost, then jog to recover, pick another lamppost, sprint to that. And you can do different lengths of intervals, but really pushing hard, which, yeah. So what's the point of doing that? Well, again, and I don't want the running experts to start getting mad at me at this point. So for me, if I was building up to run a race, say it's a half marathon, say, I can't be doing with following a program. Even if I've written the program myself, I'm going to go out there and go, yeah, I don't feel good today. I don't want to do 800 meter repeats. I'm going to go, I want to run off feel. Okay. Also, I find that for me, if I'm trying to increase my number of miles a week to build it up, so you can, if I'm increasing my distance, that's enough of a stress on my body just doing that. If I start to do pushing and doing interval work or tempo stuff on top of trying to increase that, I will just end up injuring myself, or I'll just still end up broken in some way. So what I do find, well, what I do, whether it works or not is arguable, as I say, I'm not a fast runner, is to increase my volume to get to so that whatever the distance is, I know I can do comfortably. And then when I get sort of 6 weeks out, then I taper. I will drop my mileage, and I will focus on doing more of that faster stuff, just to get, because if the aerobic base stuff takes a long time to build up, but stays with you, that sort of polished stuff, the running faster, you get the benefit of it much more quickly, but you lose it quite quickly as well. So I'm trying to get that last little bit to get faster ready for the race. I'm not expecting to have that all the time, if that makes sense. Anyway, yeah, that was just a basic look at heart rate training. Do you need to use a heart rate monitor? No. We've been running since we came down out of the trees. We're not designed to be fast runners, but we are designed for endurance, to be able to run all day long. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously people want to be the best they can be, and we've got this stuff, so it makes sense to use it. But I almost think it's like, what you need to know to run, you basically need to get out the door and put one foot in front of the other. That's it. It's like watching a video and they're telling you, you've been eating wrong all these years. You need to chew like this, 13 times on the left side and 15 times. It's rubbish, isn't it? Just go out and run. If you make sure most of the time you're running at a pace that you can talk comfortably at. If it feels hard, you're going too fast. Most of the time, that other 20%, if you really want to, if you feel like, run fast when you feel like you want to run fast, not when some chart tells you you're supposed to. Running's for fun for me. It's not. I'm not trying to beat myself up, punish myself for something. I'm just doing it because I want to do it. As soon as the fun has gone out of it, then what's the point? Anyway, that's it. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope there aren't too many keyboard warriors now. And yeah, for those of you who are slower runners, I'd just like to say, don't be put off. We're all different. And so you might go out and go, zone 2, God, I'm doing a 14-minute mile. Who cares? Who cares? And anyone who tells you it does matter, tell them to sling the rock. It doesn't matter. You're running for your own health and your own fitness. So it just doesn't matter at all. And don't feel it's like all these bloody beauty magazines, isn't it, where they make everyone feel ugly. You know, yeah, some people are a lot faster at running, and you know, yeah, great, they can do a 5-minute mile, great, good on them. But if you can't, don't kill yourself trying to be something that you're never going to be. Enjoy where you are, and enjoy running. Everybody can enjoy running. I think I'll leave it there. Take care. See you soon. Yeah, just recovering from COVID, and I'm just out. I did a 2.5 miles today. Yeah, I'm going to go and film, I think, tomorrow. And so, but the next couple of weeks will be shorter runs while I recover. Take care, folks. See you later.